Another episode of Working Class on DeerCast. Kurt Geyer, my co-host, which is still strange to say, Mark Drury.
I'm moving up in the world.
You're moving up. Yeah. Hey, it's glad to have you on your own platform. We're glad to have you on your own platform.
Glad to be here. And look who's in the hot seat.
Perry.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man. Thanks for doing the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for coming out and seeing us.
Have you done a podcast before?
I have not.
Where's Matt and Tim at, dude?
They don't. Yeah, they sit out, Perry.
Listen, we'll take in what they don't want. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're glad to have you.
Taking the outliers.
Taking the outliers. That's us in general, you know. Hey, man, glad to have you on another episode. And I think this one will be we can learn some things from you about land management a little bit, because you are one of the farm managers for Mark. Yep. And Wade didn't want to do, and Wade's in Canada. I was gonna start razzing him, but he's not here, so that's not fair, right?
Oh, it's fair.
Yeah, screw Wade.
Yeah,
screw Wade.
He's the one that went to Alberta and left us behind. You know.
Well,
did you get invited? I didn't.
I didn't get invited, but it's like, how are you going to skip a podcast to go hunt mule deer in Alberta?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, who does that?
What the heck?
Not me.
But dude, I know you're committed to the craft. We appreciate that, man. Talk about how long have you been with Drury doing farm management work, and how did you? I mean, do you have a background in that? Do you have a big background in deer hunting? I would imagine.
Yeah. I started with Mark December. This December will be 2 years I've been with Mark, and I grew up Southern Illinois. I was a diehard hunter. Worked at a body shop, and the guy who owned the body shop had land also, and so I would take me about 2 weeks. I'd do all of his plots, cameras, everything for him, and so I worked in the shop and did his farm maintenance also. So it was
so go back even a little further then. Like, did you already have prior farm experience in general through like a family farm or self-taught or?
No, I mean, my uncle owns 54 acres there where I grew up, but just few cows here and there, cuts hay. So I know how to run a tractor and stuff like that, but
right.
No big ag equipment.
Is it something you volunteered, or he like just approached you and you kind of just, I imagine gained knowledge from doing it, right?
You mean my uncle?
The guy you worked for, yeah.
No, I went into my FFA class in high school, and my teacher said, "Hey, Valentine Auto Body is looking for someone to work," and I needed a job at the time, so I went and did it. And
very cool.
He's a great guy, and still is to this day, and he taught me a lot. So
roll us into how you get with Drury Outdoors.
I was in the military at the time. I went to U of I in Champaign-Urbana.
Yeah.
And then I graduated with a fish and wildlife management degree.
Awesome.
And I graduated in December. So in October, I put together a resume, and I was like, let's just send it to some outdoor companies, because that's what I truly dreamed of doing, was being a farm manager or working in the industry, however I could get in.
That's a cool angle on it. I like that a lot. That's awesome.
And I sent Matt. I got Matt's email. I sent a resume, and I'm sitting in history class 2 days later. I look at my phone, and there's an Iowa number calling me. I'm like, who is this?
Right.
And he leaves me a voicemail. I call him back. I answer it, and I was like, oh, boy, here we go.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it seems like your dad or you, had said something to Aaron Bennett as well, right? Because as I recall, that connection was through Aaron as well, and then Matt's like, yeah, I just got an email from him. So
correct. So Dad bought a farm just south of Kirksville, and Aaron was our salesman for the farm, and that's how I got Matt's email. Okay. And Aaron, I'd never met Aaron until we went and looked at the farm that day. Aaron's a great guy, and we hit it off, and that's how the connection started. But
Aaron's one of our team members and been a friend for 20 plus years, he and his brothers. So, it was a trusted opinion. Right, and Aaron was like, you really need to take a look at this guy. And I really liked him, so. But I interviewed a variety of candidates, a pile, a lot of different candidates, and invited a few in for a face-to-face. And at that time, Coondog and my mom were in camp. So Perry's face-to-face interview included Coondog, my mom, and me at the Missouri farm.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Was it intimidating?
No, it wasn't intimidating. To me, it wasn't. He was more intimidating at the time. I was nervous to be in front of him, not Coondog or his mom. But right before I left after the interview, his mom looks at him and goes, I really like him. You should hire him.
Oh, man.
I was like,
yes.
That never hurts. When Mama Lucille says, I really like him, you should hire him, that never hurts.
Butter up mama. That's awesome.
I got a good shot, maybe.
Right. It's looking good for the home team now.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's a cool build up. I was just curious because I'm thinking of younger guys and girls watching this that are in college or not even to college, in high school, that want to pursue an outdoor career maybe one day, because I was there. And I'll be honest, I have a 2-year degree, and I went in, I'm like, I don't know what to do, really. I didn't have any guidance in the industry or nothing. So I just think it's kind of neat to get some of that background.
Yeah, when I brainstormed it and put my resume together, I was like, you can't get your name out there if you don't send your resume.
For sure.
I found every email, phone contact I could send it to in the industry, and I sent it.
That's smart, man. I mean, why not?
Yeah,
you got to get your experience and your opportunities somewhere. I mean, it's up to you to pull through and capitalize on the rest with, being passionate and work ethic, like we talked with Josh. That all kind of fills in the gaps there.
For sure.
Plus 6 years military. I mean, that stood out to me above and beyond all the other
candidates. Good foundation of a human being right there.
Good foundation, and just a great guy, well-spoken, and he's over-delivered. Yeah. In all honesty, it's been a phenomenal friend and team member and family member. Perry's like family to us.
It's been fun, very fun.
We have a blast, don't we? Yeah. Me, him, and Wade, we keep it light. I mean, if people knew the stuff we do and say to each other, they would not believe it. Like, we keep it very light.
That's good, though, right?
Because they're long hours, long days, and you get into it, and you're like, oh, I'm never going to get these plots in, So you got to have some fun while you're doing it.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. And that just makes the environment more fun in general. Let's talk about, I guess, farm management in general, and so from my perspective, I have a very minimal food plot experience, very minimal opportunity to even do food plots in some of the properties I've had. I've just got permission. I got my own little 1984 John Deere 650, and I'm getting the little, Farm and Fleet compact implements that I can get for it, whatever I can afford. I'm finding them used on Marketplace. Like, I'm a miniature, small class deer farmer, and I have a blast with it.
You're about to be high rolling here by the sounds of it.
I'm trying.
You're climbing the ladder.
I'm trying. Like, even just putting that, I bought a mower for $500 from a guy, a little compact mower for the back, and even me just being able to mow the paths that are there anyway is a cool feeling for me.
Yes.
So, and I know there's a lot of guys from where I'm at or working to where I'm at, guys are doing it with hand tools all the way up until like the level of some of the creativity and layouts of like food plots and deer setups. And I was watching Deer Season 21, and I see some of the unique setups, like the you called it the turkey foot setup for a big bean field that you guys had.
Bottom, yep.
If you want to break down any of the, like, what are certain things you do with like a blank canvas that you might do a path or plant something a certain way, and I don't even know how to even ask the question the correct way, but you see what I'm getting at, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he can comment, I can comment on either. Most of the time when we put in a new plot, we try to do a horseshoe or an L shape so that we have that hard corner or pinch point to get a deer in bow range.
Okay.
Because you can shoot a deer at any distance with a gun, but to get them at 30 yards with a bow, you have to set your plot up for them to walk that spot.
Right. Yeah, that makes
sense.
sense.
If you have the horseshoe, we plant radishes at the top of the shoe and winter bulbs at the ends. And early season, bow season, your radishes are, let's say, 50 by 50, so that's your 50 yards by 50 yards. That's your bow shot.
Yeah,
and then late season, you can still go hunt that plot because it might be big, but they're going to eat the winter bulbs later.
Gotcha.
December, muzzleloader season.
Yeah.
So
you're thinking not just for the October hunts, you're thinking down the road.
Full season, because we hunt every day, so we don't want a plot to, like, not be productive in
that was fun.
Thanksgiving beyond.
Right, that makes sense.
We can't plant a plot and just hunt in October and go, we can't hunt here anymore.
Cool. Yeah. Nice work, Perry. Thanks. Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And deer radishes, and non-typical clover, those two things are our go-tos to kill a big deer. Like, if I had one product that I want to plant, it's deer radishes.
Gotcha, okay.
They are just incredibly palatable, especially during the early part of the year when we're most on our deer because they're not moving very far. We have a lot of cameras, and we're like, we know he's in this area. And that's a really good product to kill deer with.
So what do you think for guys that don't have, guys that are putting in their kill plots and stuff like that? And like a lot of them, I have 3 kill plots on a piece, and they're just, like one I have shaped. I call it. It's kind of like the horseshoe. I call it like the old like telephone shape where I have bulbs and it pinches down at the bottom, but it's on a smaller scale. And I just see a lot of people on like Instagram and stuff are just putting in like oval shaped plots, and that's just what they do. Do you think they should maybe be thinking about those smaller kill plots in a certain shape? I know you can shoot across a lot of those, so maybe that's what changes it. But
correct, I would agree. And if you can shoot your whole plot, you can do whatever shape you want. But for us, most of our plots are big enough that we have to do a shape that puts a deer in bow range.
For sure.
Because there's a happy medium between, in theory, you go, I want them when they walk in the plot to be able to get a shot.
Yeah.
But in reality, deer don't like confinement to that point. When they go to a feed field, they don't mind having some space.
They can see, right?
So I like that football field size, 50 wide, 100 yards, and whatever shape it is. But I want something at least as large as a football field so that it means something to them. It's a major food source. They come there often,
that
and they feel comfortable when they're there. So I see a lot of real small plots, and I don't know. I think there's ways to be a little more effective than just a tiny little plot, because there's things you can do inside a football field with a scrape tree or, to Perry's point, a pinch point or that horseshoe or a plot within a plot. Those types of things can help get them within bow range, but the plot needs to be substantial enough to mean something for them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, really, when you think about it. But it's cool making your own terrain feature on a flat surface, really. So that's really smart. Like the scrape trees is a big thing, I think. But like in that bean field that you guys had, I keep calling it the turkey foot. I thought that's how you refer to it.
That's what it is. It's an 8-acre bean field.
It's a big bean field,
and it's a hard corner with a blind there. And so there's no way to get a deer to walk in front of you in an 8-acre bean field except to direct them to that spot.
So what's in the green in that bean field? If people go watch Deer Season 21, they'll see it.
Winter grass.
It's winter grass.
Biologic winter grass.
So
which is a wheat, oat, rye mix.
So did you guys plant beans and then take out the pass and then
so it's 8 acres, but we only, those paths we might have gotten rid of, maybe half an acre to an acre?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing about that is it is a 90-degree hard corner, big fence row that comes in right there. And then the turkey foot all leads to this pathway of a standing cornfield that leads them out into bigger feed fields. So there's more to it than just the turkey foot. It leads to another chute that goes out that they feel real comfortable coming into.
I like it.
We plant the full bean field and then go in, till the strips, plant them, and then wherever we want the path to come past the blind, then we just mow those beans down and get them to flow right past, and it's killer on them.
Yeah. The setup just looks cool. You see that and you're like, man, that'd be fun just to map that out and like be able to create those terrain features like that. And when you guys do that stuff, do you guys already have blinds there? Will you change that plot setup the next year?
We've had it the same the last 2 years, but because of rotation, we'll probably rotate corn where those beans were. But we'll see. We'll decide in the off season. Sometimes, like, our plots determine, like, we're making decisions well ahead based on a deer that should be coming into that we're going to target. You're like, you know what? He's going to blow. He's going to be 5 or 6 next year. Let's do this in this area and make sure we really dial it in case we can make a play on that deer. Doesn't always work, but there's a method to where we do put the most effort in each year because we're targeting a deer.
Right, that makes sense. That makes sense. I imagine you're doing a lot of drawing on maps for those layouts and stuff to see how it's going to look.
Yeah, for sure.
Big time. Drawing out and figuring out how big we need to be and how big we can be compared to what trees are there and what terrain features are there.
Yeah.
We did a plot specifically this year for a deer that we're hoping that still is to show up. But
that's cool.
He comes in mid-October, and it was mid-August. All the other plots were in, and I was like, well, guys,
let's go.
Let's go build a brand new one. And they were like, we just put in 40, one more.
Yeah, man, that's
and man, it looks good. That plot looks great right now.
When it comes to, like, doing a plot like that for a buck, and you say he comes in mid-October, do you think he's coming in, like, he comes to there for that plot? Is that the reason why?
He just comes to that farm. Like, that's part of his rut range, right? He's summering somewhere else. Where at, I don't know. But he shows up in mid-October. He'll be 6.5 this year. So
awesome.
I hope he shows up. He could be dead. Somebody could have killed him already. I don't know.
Right.
But it's there. We rolled the dice, so it's ready in case he shows. But,
well, hell, so it doesn't mean somebody else can't show up, and...
Oh, certainly.
For sure. There's some deer using it.
We've already had some shooters walk through that plot.
Yeah. That's cool, man. What's probably the most fun for you when it comes to, like, just farm management in general. I mean, what's something you enjoy the most, you think, if you had to? I know it's probably a lot, and there's probably stuff you don't like, but let's start with what you like first before Mark asks you what you hate about your job.
Getting a turkey hunt.
Yeah.
I would say management-wise, like every day on the job, just being outside. Like, there's no other place like Iowa, like northern Missouri, and you can spend every day outside just making the land better.
You give Illinois some credit, dude.
I do, yeah. It was the same down there. I mean, I loved where I grew up.
Right.
I mean, they're all the same, right? Missouri, Iowa, Illinois. That's all
same deer.
That's heaven. I mean, it's whitetail heaven. We're lucky where we all grew up. Terry and I talk about it all the time. We're like, we're lucky we're from the Midwest. You know, what if we lived in New Jersey or something? You know, it's like we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. No. Like we had a resource here that we didn't recognize in the early days was the best in the country. So
for sure,
we're lucky we live in the Midwest.
I think about that too, and I wouldn't live in Illinois if it wasn't for deer hunting, because there's no other really reason to live in Illinois with everything else. We won't get into that, but you know what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, well aware of that. But yeah, just getting to be outside, and I think the number one thing, like going and putting that new plot in, taking something that was overgrown brush this high and nasty cedar trees and then making it what it is now, that's fun.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, like you get to see your hard work come into something like beautiful where you're like, ooh, that's nice. Like a big boy's going to enjoy this.
Yes. And the whole job's kind of like that. Like me and Wade put all these plots in and work all summer to get it to result in being able to kill deer, everybody to kill deer.
For sure.
You do your homework, you get the reward.
Yeah, so. What's the most stressful part, you think?
When someone's cows get loose.
Okay. That's a factor I had yet to consider.
Yeah, we've had people's cows get loose and they'll literally eat a whole plot. So, like, we have cell cameras. We get a picture of a cow in a plot. Wade and I get up. It doesn't matter if it's 1 a.m. We've got to go get these cows back where they need to be so that our plot is not destroyed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would not be a good time.
Yeah,
I would think I've been hearing a ton this year, and it's stuff I'm learning about as I'm doing my plots. And I think I had a couple plots get destroyed. Is army worms.
Oh yeah.
And we just kind of talked about a little bit about like what do you. So can you break down what army worms are for people who don't know, or what you know? Because all as I know, you don't want them in your plot.
They are Satan. That's what they are.
Satan for food plots.
For what I know, and you might know more than this, it's a moth.
It's a moth.
Lays an egg.
The early stage.
Yeah, it lays eggs, and then you have army worms.
And I mean, they can flat eat a lot. I mean, it's amazing.
We did a podcast. We just talked about it on a podcast. I can't remember, but someone said you can hear them eating at night. Is that true? Have you ever heard that?
Probably. If there's enough, I'd assume you could.
Okay. That I didn't believe it. Someone's
especially
like,
if it was Nebraska, because they're squeaky anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When I talked to the guys at MFA and getting spray and whatnot for what we needed to spray on them, they said that they had eaten 240 acres of alfalfa in 2 days. So you're talking about an army. Like that's a lot of ground to cover.
So what do you spray on them? What's the treatment you guys attack them with?
It's a pesticide.
Yeah.
And it has what we're spraying has a 20-day residual.
20 to 30. Yep.
Yeah. So
it actually gets in the plant and makes it less palatable to them and can kill them if they eat it. And they've avoided it. Like pretty much everyone around us is getting smoked, and our plots look pretty good because of our preventative maintenance we did.
Right.
And we're very lucky in we have a friend by the name of Dustin Wiseman, and he's a consultant for Helena Chemical down in southeast Missouri. And Dustin guides us through a lot of these tricky questions, you know.
Yeah.
He's a big deer hunter, eats, sleeps, and breathes it. I met him at a Cardinal baseball game one night, and he offered me his services when we started talking about food plots and stuff.
Yeah.
Once I found out what he did, and he has just been a godsend for us. Like, you call him, and he's like, here's what you need. I'll get it to you. It's got 30-day residual, because the stuff locally here had like a week residual, you know? It's not enough. So Dustin got us the freaking extra strength. It's called Besiege.
Yep.
And it's worked swimmingly well. I mean, it's great.
Great. Because I have one plot that did okay. The other two are gone. I mean, at this point,
because of army worms?
I'm assuming so. Yeah, because they were lush and they looked great. And I was like, cool, I can kind of stay out of there. I got a good foundation going. Everything's looking great. And I'm learning the whole food plot thing, you know. And then I go back and I'm like, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
And it's it's basically dirt now. And I don't know if that's a result of army worms, I'm assuming. Just because it went from awesome to just
it is.
nothing.
Very well could be, yeah. He found a plot that had him on it when he went to check cameras, and I went 3 hours later, loaded and went up and sprayed it, and it regrew back to what they had already eaten.
Oh, it did. It did.
If you get it sprayed and get them done, it works.
Okay.
I hate those things.
But you've got to get ahead of them.
This is the second year in about the last 7 that we've had them, though. They don't come often this far north. Southeast deals with them a lot, from what I'm told.
Oh, really?
And they said it's biblical down there. They're so bad this year. So
I've never really – this is the first year I think I remember hearing – I mean, maybe it's just because more and more people are talking about them. That's why I'm taking note of it.
They're here. But it was about 7 or 8 years ago we had them pretty bad. And we sprayed that year too and got rid of them.
So those plots that got hit, I mean, in some of your guys' experience, like, would it be worth for me to like reseed now, or is it kind of too – it would be.
But you got to go with a cereal grain. You got to go with winter wheat, something that comes up quick, you know.
Yeah.
You get a rain on winter wheat, and in 7 days it looks pretty decent, you know. So winter wheat, rye, oats, something like that. Your winter wheat's going to stay green the longest, but there's some ryes and oats out there that are very palatable and do quite well.
Okay.
Mossy Oaks Trophy Oats or winter grass, both of those products would be great there.
Okay.
But worst case scenario, get some winter wheat planted. I mean, at least you'll have something.
Something rather than dirt.
Catch it ahead of the next rain.
Yeah, I was going to say that my guess would have been that sort of factor, and on your job would be the most stressful, because your hard work is great, but if you don't catch certain things in time,
100%.
You say the word armyworm, his head explodes.
Yeah,
it's getting nervous.
He does not like armyworms.
I probably spent 4 or 5 full days
spraying
just for them.
Oh man,
which is 5 days a week could have been doing something else,
something different. Yeah.
But
then it's also you hate to. I mean, you have to do it, right? Like, what's your option? You have to.
I told him
none.
The one night he texted me, he goes, David Brothers said that they're on, which is our neighbor, said he's got armyworms. I said,
they're eating his yard.
I said, I'll start spraying tonight and just literally spray through the night to just get done with it.
Yeah.
So that it's done.
And that's a way to get on it, probably, right?
Yeah. Well, I said you don't have to go tonight, but tomorrow we have to get on it. You know?
Yeah. It's a.
No kidding, man. Yeah, that's what I figured to be the most stressful thing, is just like weather factors, you know, that like, because you put all that hard work in, I mean, and the volume that you guys are putting them in, and like the planning and stuff to like not get rain for so long.
Oh, yeah.
Or then, you know, throw in the factor of armyworms. I never even thought about the cattle situation.
Yeah, it's a real deal.
Yeah.
And you said about rain windows. Yeah, I mean, when we're planting and we've got 3 days of dry and then we're going to get 3 days of rain, like we are 100 mile an hour.
Yeah.
As many as we can get in.
Get it in that window.
Yes.
Especially in the spring. You know, we're turkey hunting, trying to, and then you get a dry window. And basically in the spring, you watch what the farming community is doing. And it's like, if they're rolling, you better be rolling. They know more about it than we do. You know?
Right, so, their primary is to make the money on it. So if it's right, it's right.
And I can't remember a spring where the planting window wasn't in hours. Like, in the spring, it's never measured in days or weeks. It's measured in, you got 48 hours from when it dries to when you're about to get hit again. And that dirt's only correct for short periods of time.
Yeah.
In the spring. Fall, there's more dry periods, obviously, with the temperatures and everything. But spring, it's a madhouse trying to get everything in.
Austin on our crew, we call him the Lord. He's, you know, a big farmer, and he farms a lot of like sandy ground. So he's got like pivots and stuff on ground. So he does a lot of this, you know, and I mean, a pivot, it calls for what his ground is, you know, so that's not necessary for just a deer hunting situation. No. Putting pivots out there, which
we wish we had some on some of our green fields.
It'd be nice,
it'd be nice
because I think you can treat a lot of you could treat armyworms through a pivot if you had to, if you had a setup. Which, hey, Mark, get some pivots, dude. Come on. Make
just
your job easier.
It's just something else we have to maintain because everything's going to break. And
electrical problems.
Yeah. You know, we could spend some money on pivots and we'd never have to worry about rain again. That's one thing, you know. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
You know?
But then you
build a pond, it stops raining. You know, those types of things are.
You got $200,000 in a pivot or whatever they are. I don't know.
And then it rains perfectly for years.
It rains a whole year, It's
for years. Floods.
Well, heck. We tried. But, I can see that. But that's got to be a ton of fun, man, and like a pretty rewarding job.
It is for sure. And that's what I said. We do so much work, but we see the reward at the end of the blood trail, really, every time.
What's something that you have in your job description that you didn't think you'd be doing? Or is there anything?
Oh, there's bound to be a bunch, I would assume.
I'm editing. I did Wade and I did a lot of editing of turkey footage mainly. Mm-hmm. I mean, the camera stuff I never did before I worked here.
Yeah.
So I learned all that from Wade, but those two things mainly.
Yeah.
You know, we say Wade and Perry, the farm manager, but in reality, they're also camera guys, hunters, on-air personalities, all fall.
Podcasters.
Podcasters. So
now I am.
there's a lot of things that they do and do them quite well. They're 5-tool players, both of them. They're incredible individuals, and they're very talented at many things. And the other thing that Perry brought to us that Wade or I, neither one had was mechanics. Like he's really good with fixing things. He worked in that auto body shop, and he understands things better than Wade and I do.
You need that on a farm, man.
Oh, yeah,
we're just enough to be dangerous, but Perry's he knows what he's doing when it comes to mechanics. So.
Yeah, you need a guy like that on a farm because I know enough to be dangerous too, but I don't consider I'm not going to tear apart a hub or pull the engine out of that skid over there. You know what I mean? I probably could figure it out, but I'm not going to volunteer.
He's not to that level, but a lot of the basic stuff that goes wrong all the time, he's really good at fixing stuff.
Well, a lot of farm stuff in general is being creative with what you have to get things going to finish your job. And anybody that's worked on a farm knows that.
Absolutely.
A lot of days are like that.
Yeah, which is probably frustrating too. Like breakdowns and stuff probably puts stress on you.
Certainly, especially when your window's short.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
It can make or break us getting them in for sure. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, just Mark talks about mechanics, like doing maintenance on everything, changing oil, just keeping everything rolling in the off season, so that when the window hits, we're good to go.
Yeah, you don't got to worry about nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. I imagine. I mean, actually, I'm not even going to go that way. I ask you, what's it feel like when you put in work to a plot? And then you watch a deer get shot over the same plot.
It's what it's there. I mean, it's the best reward you could get. Yeah. We did 35, 40 green fields this year, and we'll probably kill deer on 10 or 12 of them.
Yeah.
But that 10 or 12 can be different every year. So you've got to do that many so that you get those kills. And it's exactly what, like you're sitting in the tractor planning the plot, and you know that this is where we're going to kill them.
That's what I was going to ask you next. It's is there any certain ones you're like, this is feeling real nice?
Yeah.
Well, we know where the target deer are going, So there's certain plots that have just a little more meaning, We've got some honey holes in a few of these farms, So
for sure.
They gain their reputation through time, and I've owned some of these farms 20 years,
Yeah.
And you just know.
You know the notorious ones, yeah.
Yep. You do.
Do you have names for every? You have to a point have names, or do you have them numbered, or how's that?
No,
work?
they're named.
Every plot's got a name.
Every plot's got a name. The other thing that we've talked a lot about plots, but we also do a lot of timber stand improvement, and we try to enhance the bed. We try to do a lot with our overall grass program in terms of warm season grasses for access and that type of stuff. So it's not just about sticking a plot out.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it, in terms of an overall healthy herd,
for sure.
Just doe management, and there's so many different things we do outside of just planting food plots.
My brain goes straight to food plots initially, thinking it that way,
Perry and I just hung a new set in an awesome rut pinch. Like we are jacked to go climb that stand. We call it the bloody walnut because he cut his finger when he was.
I didn't notice that, and I'm looking at him like, what's going on there? No kidding.
I grabbed a limb to trim a smaller limb off of it, and it caught, and so I ripped it like that. Well, I ripped it right in my finger.
And I mean, the blood is like showering down. I got blood on me. He's got blood on him. So I send him to the truck, and I'm like, get your butt out of here. I'm going to go finish all this stuff up. And I get the stand. I mean, there's blood everywhere. And I go, this has to be a good omen. So we called it the bloody walnut because we put it
in a big walnut tree.
But it's a smoking spot.
It is awesome. Beautiful spot.
Yeah, stuff like that, like timber management and even like the setting sets and all that. Like I didn't think about that for some reason. I just think you're in a tractor doing things for some reason. I think farm manager,
It's a pile. I mean, the trail camera maintenance and putting those out and, looking at the pictures every day. I mean, it's unreal how much time there is in this.
Yep, for sure.
Just to take all the trail cameras down like at the end of the year, and we take them all down, we de-battery them, we clean them, and we store them in a room per numbered out. I mean, it's a week and a half to 2 week job.
There's 200 of them across 3 states, Texas, Missouri, and Iowa.
Yeah, it's like a library of it that you're going back through.
Well, you got to keep them. Otherwise, there's an investment there that you're flushing if you don't take care of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're only as good as the maintenance you do to them, just like a tractor.
Yep.
And I think people forget that part and then are the first people to leave nasty comments on trail camera companies' pages because they kept the same Dollar General or Harbor Freight batteries in them for 3 years, and it's all corroded and crappy.
Yeah. Energizer lithium is their only way to go. I mean, they really are.
That's what we talk about that like, with podcast equipment. You know, you get
what you pay for.
That too, in like cell cams. You know, and you run those batteries in it. They're more expensive, but the whole point of a cell cam is to not go in and mess with the camera, to always do that. So that's a big game changer for me. It
is. A lot of these states are coming after the cell cams. It's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's on the docket in another 5 states.
Arizona was the first one, right?
Arizona was the first one. There's 4 or 5 more that are looking at it.
Really? So, I didn't know that.
Yep, heard that last week.
Do you know what states off the top of your head?
I do not. They told me, but I forgot. They were Western, as I recall. Yep.
I heard one of the factors of that was because of the dryness and watering holes. People were putting pressure on the deer and they weren't getting water.
Too much, yeah. I've heard that too.
I kind of get that.
I get it to a point, sure.
I get it to a point.
Yep. So we'll see where that ends up. But
yeah, I hope it doesn't happen in the Midwest. But the watering thing's not a fact. It's a weird one, right? I think I love trail cams. They're fun.
Yep.
You know, I'd hate to. I wouldn't.
To each their own. I mean, we killed a lot of deer without them for years. So I mean, if they banned them, you know, I mean, I don't want them to, but if they do, then
just have to go old school.
We'll go back to the way we used to. And then if they got rid of truck cameras altogether, it'd be interesting.
It would.
I think it'd be interesting one year just to not put cameras out and just go hunt. And
it'd be cool.
It'd be different, wouldn't it?
It would be different.
Woo, that'd be different.
I still think we'd kill some big ones.
Oh, we'd kill big ones, but we wouldn't know. We wouldn't have the MRI we have now.
Yeah. I think it adds to, we talk about this often on just the regular Working Class series, it's like it adds to, like when you were a kid, when you were hunting, the allure of like the legend of that big buck that someone saw.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It adds to that mystery and the fun of like, I don't know what's out here, but there could be a 400-inch, you know what I mean? When you're a kid, you think of anything stupid like that. You just
go sit in the stand and hope that the big one walks by.
Yeah.
That somebody talked about 2 weeks ago, you know?
Yeah, it's motivating no matter what because you have that, like, hopeful excitement.
I always say, like, Reconics, their slogan is, see what you've been missing. Well, you also see what you haven't been missing. Like, if there's nothing there, it's going to expose that as well. And it's like, I'm not even hunting there, you know? It's like...
Well, that, too, and arguments on the internet. And I don't know if you brought that up, Mark, when you were in studio or when we did a past podcast, like trail cam pictures give people this like false sense of ownership over deer.
Yeah, I did. They do make people very possessive.
It's my buck.
It's my buck. I've been getting him. Yeah. He only lives right there in front of that camera.
Just in front of that side of the tree.
His home range is not 2,500 acres. It's on this 40. You know? Right.
That's the positive, the most positive thing I think that would come out of it is I think it would. The hunting community and that weird ownership over deer and arguments and ego stuff would it'd be better.
There'd be less conflict because we wouldn't know what the neighbor had and the neighbor wouldn't know what we had. We'd just go kill the deer if it was mature and walked out. And it wouldn't be for sure. That's so and so, you know.
It would be it would remind me of the transition of like I had a 35 millimeter one trail cam and we do the 1 hour photo thing when I was like young, 10, 11. And that's when my fascination with the wildlife eye is. And that's why Mark sent us an old wildlife eye for the studio. Because I remember when the wildlife eye came out, my dad and I were like, whoa.
This is real.
Infrared footage.
At night.
Yeah. And then I remember the old Dream Season videos of like guys taking deer mounts to prank other teams or other guys, putting deer mounts in front of the wildlife eye and stuff. So, I mean, that blew my mind back then, you know, because I'm like, can you imagine? So I was like looking at our crappy old Sony handy cam we had back in the day. I'm like, will this work for the wildlife eye, you know? And just, I don't know. It's like something about that good old day, the mystery of what's in the woods is, I don't know if it'd be too bad, really.
I don't think it'd be bad. I mean, I'm not saying ban trail cam, so I hope no one takes it.
I'm not saying that either.
I don't want anybody to, you know, like, oh, these guys are anti-trail cam. I'm not. I mean, but
of course
there's pros and cons to both sides.
Yeah. It's kind of fun to think about.
It was.
Hey, you get 2 weeks of your life back to do something other project.
Right. Last year, the 200 he killed last year, we went in, checked the camera old school on the right wind. Mm-hmm. That's how we killed him. We didn't have a cell cam there.
Checked it old school.
We did not have a cell cam there. We checked it, and I'm like, it's the crooked one. Like, he was a roamer. Like, the previous year, I'd get him here. I'd get him 2 miles away. I'm like, he's on this farm right now. I go, we have to go for him tonight. Mm-hmm. We literally went in, moved a blind, and killed him that night.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So it was as if we had gotten a cell cam report, but in reality, we were just checking cards because we had a bunch that we hadn't checked in a while, and I was like, holy cow, he's been here the last 2 nights. Let's go.
Yeah.
And we killed him.
It was cool.
What percentage, I mean, I don't really know how to ask. I mean, do you guys run a lot of non-cellular cams along with your cell cams?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it just a few?
It's probably 140 non and 60 of cell.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And then do you check the non-cell cams kind of like moving in or out of a spot, or is it like, are you ever just going out to check a cam and going to a spot and not hunt? Or is it always while you're in that spot?
Normally if we're doing something.
Yeah, we're doing something, or if we're they need to be checked because they get moved. Coons move them.
Oh, yeah.
The batteries die, So you got to check them every month at least, I think.
Yeah.
Some of them, others I'll put in a place and leave it go the whole season. Like if I'm trying to scout a certain trail, that's why we hung this bloody walnut. I went in last year and I scouted it all out, and I was like, oh man, this is quite a little funnel here. So I put a camera there, left it, never went back, checked it in the year. I'm like, poop, look at this.
Oh,
check this
smart.
out, guys.
Yeah.
So we hung it and we're ready to rock and roll now. And there's a cell cam there now.
That's a cool idea. Yeah.
We got
first buck went through last night. Did you see that?
I didn't. I haven't looked at the reports this morning.
Do your job, man. That's awesome, though. See, I always worry. Like, I think sometimes I'm too conservative with cameras and stuff. Like, I have my cell cams. I don't run a ton, but then I have non-cell cams, and I'm like, I don't want to go in to check them. And I get that. So there's places you can get to and places you can't. Big feed destination fields is where we have a lot of our cameras in the summer because we're just taking inventory. We don't need a daylight picture. We just need to know if he's there. Now during the season, we'll have them on scrapes and a little bit more sensitive areas. So we do not check them very often. Then certainly. I try to put my non-cell cams on just like mowed paths that you would access in or out anyway.
I keep them on scrapes. Number one place. Absolutely.
Okay.
Number one place to get bugs.
Mm-hmm.
All year.
If there's one that we're like, we need to go check, but it's in a bad spot, you just get in the tractor and because they do
let the diesel engine motor way in. And
they don't react to tractors for the most part.
They don't. They're used
unless you run right on his bed. But our paths are set to where we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's smart.
Just go pop the card and
or check them at night. I run a lot of cameras in the middle of the night.
Do you really?
Yep.
And you guys just like leave a tractor running, get out, leave the tractor idling, check it, get back in, and keep moving on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're very used to the, just the noise, the tractor.
And just nighttime lights, just don't bother them. Look at them on a highway or in a feed field. You drive by them and they just stare at you. And even on the farm, I mean, they might bounce off a little bit, but not very far.
They've never been ran down by a tractor.
No,
like it's not on their predator list typically.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's me doing my small time deer farming, mowing paths and stuff. I jumped a big buck this summer cutting some access ways and stuff, and I freaked out a little bit. I'm like, oh no, I spooked this buck, and I called my buddy Austin. I got the tractor. He's like, dude, you're mowing in there anyway. He's fine. Mow the path.
Yeah,
you're good. You're not.
Yep, for sure.
It's June. You're fine.
That was what he just said. You were probably right on him, and he had to get up.
I would have mowed over him if he wouldn't have got it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's cool, man. It's definitely cool. I think you probably know a ton, and we'll have to get you back on and do some more deep dives, maybe on just even the Working Class Bowhunter series, get you in the studio
for
and
sure.
Let people ask like property management questions and stuff like that. And I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to do it.
Yeah. Hey, I think for the first podcast you did all right. How do you feel about it?
I think it was fun.
He's like, never doing this again.
No.
No, I think it was good.
Add that to your list now. He's also a podcaster.
Yep. I like it, man.
New thing on the resume.
Awesome, dude. Well, that's cool, man. I like hearing the way it all built in and how you got to where you're at. Like, just going for it, man. Like,
yes.
Sending out resumes and creating your opportunity.
That's what it was. And Aaron Bennett was the weird connection that, like, we had never crossed paths before. Dad and I Dad buys a farm, and I get an email.
Yeah.
Matt's email, and sent it to the studio, and put me in contact with.
Here we are.
With Captain over here.
Captain.
He was at a tree stand, I think, when I called you to say I was hiring him.
I was hunting at my dad's farm. I look at my phone. Mark Drury's called me. I said, hello. He goes, are you hunting? I said, yeah. And he goes,
yeah.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you later. I said, no, tell me.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, if you want to move to Iowa, the job's yours. I said, all right. I just got down on the stand.
You got down?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He went from a whisper to a loud talk really quickly.
Okay, I'm on my way.
Screw these deer.
I got Iowa deer to look at now. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was.
That is cool. But hey, I mean, if you're going to call a guy to tell him he's got a job, like, oh, you are hunting. Maybe you are right for the job.
Oh, he's right for the job.
Yeah.
Perry's died in the wool hunter, and you have to be to tolerate the hours and the and the amount of work and the amount of sacrifice this job requires. You better love it, or you're not going to last. I've had some guys that by November, you be in a tree, north wind hitting you in the face, turn around, and they're just like they're gone.
Yeah.
Mentally, they're gone because there's so many hours involved. Like it's every day, all day for 4 straight months. You know, we start every morning and we go all the way into the night. It's 12, 14 hours a day, every day.
Yeah.
And we joke about it all the time. Every day is the same during deer season. We don't know if it's Monday, Wednesday, or Saturday because they all feel exactly the same.
I can see that.
Last year.
Nothing changes.
Last year when
that.
he shot the crooked one.
Yeah.
We waited to track 3-4 hours. We go, we get his deer. It's way in this thicket. We got to get it out. Wade and I get it out, and we get back here, get it hung up 1:30 in the morning, and Kyle.
We were Taylor's with us.
Yeah,
all 4 of us. Like we were just so happy, and it was a rough getting him out of there. Like it was rough country getting him out, and we had a 4-wheeler, and those guys rode that deer out of the 4-wheeler, and I didn't stop you there, but Kyle had shot one earlier.
Kyle had shot one that night too, and we pulled,
which was not a great hit, so we had to give him some time.
So it's 1:30 in the morning. We're here. Mark's deer's hanging. We get in the truck. He goes, "All right, we're going to track Kyle's." I mean, it was 3:30 in the morning.
You're like, all right,
and everybody was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, I mean, it's the crew you need right there.
Yeah, it was fun. Everybody was jacked up.
We found hers, and it was a great night.
Well, those are those days. You know, they don't happen every day, and that's what all the hard work leads into. So it's easy to, you got to celebrate those and get after it and do what you got to do, because that's why we're all out here, too. It's, I mean, not the main reason, but it's definitely some of the highlights, So that's awesome, man. Well, it's a cool gig.
It is definitely a cool gig.
And you seem happy about it. So the burnout, it seems like you power through that. And I can imagine, man, that burn about anybody out.
There is. I'm tired of this hot weather. I'll tell you that.
That's what's burning us out this year, literally burning us out. Yeah. But in terms of the work burning him out, Bear don't get, I call him Big Bear because his nickname, Marissa, his fiance, calls him Pear Bear. So
okay,
I just shortened it up to Big Bear. Bear, I call him Bear all the time, but he doesn't get burnt out. The Bear's always ready to go. And Wade's the same way. I mean, just goes with the flow and kills it every single day for us. They're amazing. And Forrest the same for Terry. Literally, those 3 guys, if people knew the hours and effort that goes into, everything we do, from cameras to farms and everything, they deserve congressional medals of honor. Those guys are awesome.
I can see that, man. Well, it was great having you on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
It was nice meeting you, too. I think we're going to probably spend a lot of time together here in the future, it sounds like, so it's going to be some fun. And what do we say we go to the Giant Tracker segment?
Let's do it, man. I can't wait. This part of the podcast is my favorite. I love hearing the stories about these giant deer from all over the country.
I love it, too, and I get to meet new people.
Yep,
and we've had good feedback on it. Guys are really loving it. Guys and girls are loving that segment and kind of highlighting just big bucks killed wherever they're at.
That's pretty cool.
So it's a ton of fun. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Working Class on DeerCast. Check out this Giant Tracker segment. Hope you enjoy it. Go shoot a giant.
A really big one. And then we'll put you on Giant Tracker.
Shoot one bigger than Mark.
Please. Good luck out there. Thanks, guys. Guys, Giant Tracker segment. We have a absolute freak of a deer, and I'm excited to hear the story on this one. We have Kevin Christorf. I want to say Kristoff, but it's not right. Hey, thanks for doing this kind of last minute. Are you there? Can you hear me?
You cut out there at the end.
I said thanks for doing this last minute. I know it's like crazy right now with hunting going on, so I appreciate it.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
So let's get into it, man. Tell me about this deer, because I saw this all over the internet and then featured in Giant Tracker, of course, on DeerCast. It's just an absolute dream of a whitetail. You start the story. I'm going to shut up.
It's definitely a buck of a lifetime for me, and I quite honestly, I doubt I'll ever harvest one even close to that size again. But it kind of all started this summer. One of the neighbors that hunts close to the property where I hunt sent me a trail cam photo of a deer that he ended up calling Hector. It was one of the biggest deer that he's ever had on trail camera, and that we had known to be around the area that we were hunting. I was pretty excited for him. We have a very close relationship with all the neighbors down there. Just a great hunting community in general. Good. They're very, very spoiled to hunt in the area that I do. And so he ended up sending me a trail cam photo. I was really, really excited for him. Hoping that the deer would stay around, because it was early August, late July when he had that trail cam photo. A couple days went by, and my wife and I, my wife's also a very, very, very big archery hunter.
You're lucky. I said you're lucky, or maybe you're not so lucky. I don't know, because you have to share hunting time.
I'm very, very, very lucky. I love sharing the experiences with her, and we work together so well as a team that very, very, very blessed. She actually just came home for last night. She had been hunting since last Friday, almost every single day down at her. It's her property and her father's property, and so she's a very, very avid hunter. So we get to share a lot of stories together, and we ended up getting the trail cam photo of Hector a couple days after the neighbor Dakota had sent it to us. And we shared the photo with him back, and we're like, he moved approximately half a mile in a few days, and which is pretty uncommon kind of in the area that we hunt. When they're in their summer patterns, they don't really move that far across the highway and a river to get to the areas where we had them on camera. August continued to roll around, and we continued getting more and more and more on multiple different trail cameras on the property that we hunt of Hector. And so he definitely made it his home in the area that we hunt in. And September rolled around. Wisconsin's hunting season for archery begins middle of September, and September rolled around, disappeared. We didn't have any trail cam photos of them. The neighbors that we talked with didn't have any trail cam photos of them. We had just figured and assumed that he just left the area. After I ended up harvesting him, found out he was a mile and a half away in September, where a neighbor had multiple trail cam photos of him.
No kidding.
So it was a shock that he moved that much in August, and then moved completely out of the area in September, and then eventually came back in October.
I wonder what made him move. I wonder if something was pressuring him, or it's just something he wanted over there, or what.
The property I hunt, they did some logging in that time frame, and I think that played a role into making him vacate the area. Why he came back, I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe just he wanted to come back and get comfy in what was his new home range.
Yeah, and so then October rolled around, and we started getting multiple photos of him, through daytime photos of him. 8:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He came back basically home. And we started just getting just a lot of photos. My wife had been out hunting. My wife Bailey had been out hunting in late September a few days, and then earlier October a few days. I unfortunately hadn't been able to get out hunting until about mid-October, which is when we started getting a lot of trail cam photos of him again. And so once we started getting some daylight photos of him, we started spending significantly amount of time in the woods, and we were both doing all day sits from sun up to sundown if possible.
Yeah, just to hope to catch him slipping somewhere.
Yeah, we had multiple trail cam photos of him throughout the day, and I mean the rut here in Wisconsin, typically pre-rut is late October, which is my favorite time of year to hunt here in Wisconsin, and then peak rut is like right now, November 6th, 7th, 8th through the 10th. And usually prefer late October hunting.
Yeah, definitely a little more pattern to get them on. So at this point, had any neighbor, have you guys caught any glimpse of him on the hoof, like while hunting? Have you heard any rumors at this point about this deer?
And so my wife had two different chances, not necessarily chances, but two different opportunities where she saw Hector. Mm-hmm. The property we're hunting is a 5-acre piece of parcel that is landlocked. It's private, and it's landlocked private around it. And so we have to canoe across the river to get to it. So it's a very, very small piece. And we have a couple tree stands set up in there. And my wife, on two different sits, ended up seeing him in the neighbor's cornfield, which we can't shoot into the neighbor's cornfield. And then the one time it walked down a trail just out of basically shooting view, and then walked by her. That was her first experience with them. I had an experience with them like 5-6 days before I shot him, where I had a little buck underneath my tree at shooting time. Mm-hmm. He came by, and I didn't want to spook him, so I stayed up in my tree. He walked by, and he made a rub about 25 yards away. Mm-hmm. and it intrigued Hector, who I didn't know was there at the time, to come right over and investigate, and he kicked that buck right out of there. And it was about 4.5 minutes after shooting time when he came in. Yeah,
what a tease.
it was. And so total, we had 3 different, where my wife saw him twice and I saw him once, and we were getting trail cam photos of him during daytime as well. So we felt very, very good about the chances that we had.
Right. So when you seen this deer in person, I mean, did he live up to how big you thought he was, of course, in like the trail cam pictures, or like what was your first thought around how the size of him?
Because it's a family station, I won't say what was running through my head, but it was basically, holy smokes, this is definitely the biggest deer I've ever had an opportunity at. Right,
of course, yeah. How could you not? I mean, the deer is just impressive in every single way. I mean, he don't have a bad angle.
Yeah, he's very, very symmetrical and very even all the way through. And
let's talk about the successful hunt, man. Give me the breakdown, because anyone seeing these photos online, they're seeing like it kind of adds some coolness, and people want to know the story when they see a big buck next to a canoe on like a little sand beach thing they got. I mean, it adds to that. It just makes it more interesting, I think. Like the effort is a little more.
I will say that the canoe aspect's really, really neat. I will say it's a ton of work.
I bet it is. Yeah.
Even trying to control scent and all that sort of stuff, sweating, getting in. But because the piece is landlocked, we have to canoe to it. My father-in-law owns a property on the west side of the river. We canoe straight across to the 5-acre parcel, which is it's a very perfect pinch point funnel. It's nasty, it's thick, where a lot of deer like to bed, and it's just a really, really good hunting spot. So the morning of it was October 28th, last Thursday, I was canoeing across. I had hunted all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. I did not see him. We did not have any trail cam photos that I knew of him. They were calling for heavy rain in the afternoon. Decided to go out, at least sit in the morning. While I was canoeing across, it was dark. One took off where we parked the canoe and snorted and run into the neighbor's cornfield. It sounded like a pretty big bodied deer, but I couldn't tell what it was. So probably my stand, it was very overcast day because of the rain that they were calling for. I was sitting there. Be lying if I said I wasn't playing on my phone, and I heard corn rustling about a half an hour into shooting time. I turned around, looked over my shoulder, and I can see part of the cornfield to the north, and I could see him walking through the corn, and it was no doubt him. He was very, very obviously him, and he was walking towards the river. Once he got out of the corn and he was heading towards the river, it's a tiny pinch point that either funnels to the north or funnels south towards me. And so I was very optimistic if he got into that funnel that I had a 50-50 chance that he would funnel down to me.
Dang. I mean, you had to have been freaking out at this point.
Surprisingly not. The freaking out came after. I surprisingly surprised myself and stayed pretty calm, because I knew there was a chance still that he wasn't going to come my way.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Which normally it never works out that they come the way you want usually, especially on a deer like this.
Yeah.
So go ahead. No, I was just going to ask what happened next, and you were getting there.
Yeah. I get all so excited. I've told the story a lot, and it just the excitement that it brings every single time. It just feels like I'm still there.
I love it.
And so he ends up coming into that funnel, and there's a trail. It's 22, 23 yards. Perfect shot from the tree stand. I can see him coming from behind me. Now overlooking my right shoulder because he's in the funnel, and I see him. He's coming straight down that trail, and I'm like, this is going to be perfect. He's going to be on that trail. It's going to be an easy shot. Well, as you know, as a hunter, it definitely doesn't work out the way you plan it typically. And so he gets to he's now directly downwind of me. The wind was out of the southeast blowing to the northwest. He gets directly downwind of me, and he gets to the track where I walked between the canoe and my tree stand, and he stops on a dime. And he starts stomping and doing the quick looking around, smelling. And I thought he was gone at that point. I'm like, there's no way a buck of his caliber that has been around this many years is gonna stick around. And he needed to go about 10 more yards to get a good clean shot. He was only probably less than 40 yards at this time, but it was just brushy where he was at, and 10 more yards. And so he stopped, he's stomping, and he angles back and walks kind of my track towards where I parked the canoe. I can see his rack up there. I can't see much of anything else because of how brushy it is. And I'm like, well, if he didn't smell because of my trail, he's for sure going to see or smell the canoe that I tried concealing, and he's gonna take off. This is inevitable. This story is not going to end well. Yeah. All of a sudden, he turns around. He continues to walk back on the trail that I walked in on, and instead of coming down the main trail, he walks through the brush right where I walked in and follows it right to my tree stand. So he's walking just directly behind me, stomping, alert, and clearly has a scent of something's not right. He gets to underneath my tree, and he starts smelling my tree pegs angling up, and I'm turned to the right of my tree stand, and now he's directly below me, and I can see him in the rack below the tree stand as he's looking up. And I'm like, gosh dang it, this just is not going as planned at all.
I would have been freaking out. I'd rather him just come in at 20, get a shot or not, and then leave.
Yeah. And that's where it was really, I mean, and this wasn't like a minute that this all occurred. This was probably 5 to 8 minutes of watching him and watching it all occur. And then I heard him take a few steps, and now he's upwind of me. And so I'm still facing this way. He's now over here. I hear him take a couple steps. I can't see him below the stand. And so I figure he's far enough that I might be able to turn and shoot as long as he's not looking at me. Yeah. He got upwind of me. It looked to me like it made him even more nervous, because now he couldn't smell me, and he knew something obviously is not right. And so I quick turned. He was stopped. He was about 4 to 5 yards from the tree, straight down. A shot that I can't say I've ever taken before. So straight down. And I was using a crossbow, and I turned, and he was stopped looking the other way. And it's a small pocket there. It's obviously not a double lung shot or anything along those lines. And I felt confident in that small pocket. I squeezed the trigger of the crossbow. I watched the bolt go into him and hit exactly where I was aiming. He bolted, and I was watching him as he was running, and I can see about 50, 60 yards, and he was running sideways, and eventually I heard a crash out of sight. And that's when the nerves really started. That's when shaking, the uncontrollable of the possibility of
the
successful hunt.
Yeah, man, that had to have been nuts. At the base of your tree, that would be, and that probably that 5 to 8 minutes or whatever you were saying probably felt like 30 minutes.
It did. It just felt like an eternity. And I didn't have the most positive attitude that it was going to happen the way that it did. I was confident on multiple occasions that it just wasn't going to be the day.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I don't think you're out of line for thinking that too, especially once a big buck like that catches, like you said, he catches your scent trail and they get nervous. Typically, they don't mess around. They kind of just turn around, go back where they came, or they do something funky. But so, yeah, I mean, I would have been thinking the same exact thing anybody would that's been on big deer.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've had that happen before where they smell a track and they just turn around and disappear, and they might even vacate the area as well.
So tell me about, okay, you heard the crash. I mean, then what?
Then first thing I did, I looked down hoping that I had a pass through, and because I have a Luminoc on the crossbow, and I did not see the Luminoc in the ground, and so I figured I did not get a pass through. But there was one of the biggest blood trail I've ever seen on a deer that you could just follow like almost to a T where he was, where it looked like it was just like a paint can had been dripping. So I knew I didn't think anyways that I got a pass through, but I knew I had at least enough penetration that it penetrated the bottom of them, and so the blood trail was good. And so first thing I did, sitting in my tree stand, I call my wife, who she knew as soon as I called there the possibility of a successful hunt, and she started screaming on the phone, "Did you get him? Did you get him?" And I said, "I think so, but I'm not 100% certain." And I explained to her what happened, and then eventually, after talking with her, I called my dad. My dad is obviously the one that got me into fishing and hunting in the first place, and always getting advice from him. And then I called the neighbor, the one that sent us the initial trail cam photo. One of the neighbors we work very closely together with, and he said he was at work, and he's like, I'm taking off work. I'm coming. I'm gonna come help you track. Neighbor. Yeah, very. It's just so spoiled on how awesome and good people just that I am fortunate to hunt around. Really good people.
That's typically the opposite. Or you always hear about the bad stories, with neighbors and stuff like that.
This is the exact opposite. I can't thank the neighbors enough, and just even how happy they truly were for the success.
That's cool, so, man.
I waited. I checked the radar. The rain was looking like it was going to hold off till 2 o'clock. After getting off the phone, it's like 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock hour, and so I knew we had some time to wait, and so waited for the neighbor to get done with work. We decided to start tracking him, and we're following the blood trail. I didn't know it at the time until after that he was actually recording our track of the possible excitement. And eventually we got to right where I heard that crash, and I kind of blacked out, but after watching the video, it obviously refreshed my memory. But I dropped my crossbow, and we tackled each other of excitement and happiness. And it wasn't until I got up to him that I realized he was even bigger than what I thought. And I started getting emotional and tearing up. It all started to set in that it actually happened.
That I can't even imagine. Like I'm looking at the giant tracker right up here in DeerCast, and the deer is just insane. Talk about how big this deer is for people that are just listening on the audio side and aren't going to watch or see this on the video side. Yeah,
so I knew it was big when we walked up to it, and obviously we had to get it back across the river in the canoe. That not a great experience. It was definitely worth it. But we didn't tip the canoe. We got him across, and ended up eventually getting him field dressed and scored him. He ended up field dressing out at 233 pounds at the meat processor. And then he ended up getting scored four different times, once by me, once by my wife, and once by a scorer, and once by a taxidermist. And he ended up scoring 200 inches in 5/8 gross, green gross, and 196 and 7/8 net. Obviously, there's still a 60-day drying period, and
this is typical for people who don't understand. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, we didn't realize like how symmetrical and how typical of a deer that he was until it really got up to him, and like all the tines are all identical besides the 13th tine that's roughly 2 inches long, but otherwise the tines are within 2 inches on all of the scoring measurements.
So where does this rank? Is it in, I mean, maybe you don't know yet. It's probably not official because the drying period and everything, but where's this rank? Do you know, have you had talks like all-time typicals, Wisconsin record typicals? Like, where's this at? Do you know
so
yet?
It didn't even dawn on me until eventually the photos started getting shared all over the place and people started sending me the records of the possible being a record. And so the crossbow record is like 179 inches net in Wisconsin. And so it's roughly green, obviously, but it's roughly 15 inches bigger than the biggest crossbow kill. And then the biggest archery kill is 192 and change net overall. And then I think it sits possibly, if it stayed the way it is right now, maybe 3 in Wisconsin overall, and that includes gun, archery, muzzleloader, and crossbow.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. When I started getting that sent to me, and then I obviously looked into it. And
it's not that stuff matters, but it's cool.
No. Yeah, it's definitely it's crazy. If wasn't a record, I'd still be just as happy. But being that there's even talk around it being a possible record in the record books and stuff along those lines, it's just very, very fortunate.
Can I ask you this? And you don't have to answer, but I got to ask, because we've done some interviews with some like mega giants before like this, a lot of non-typicals, and a lot of those guys get replicas made to like take to shows to show off. Like, I didn't know if anybody had reached out to you yet. I know it's pretty recent from like one of the Wisconsin state shows about having them, showing them off at the shows, or, I just think, if I killed a deer this big, I would get a replica made so I could travel with the replica and not have to worry about taking the real rack all over the place.
Yeah, nobody's reached out about the rack yet, and that's still a possibility of getting that replica made. I know I've talked about my taxidermist, Bobby Burris in Buffalo County, and gonna get a pedestal mount done, and then I might get a replica of that made as well. But yeah, it's still pretty recent, still pretty fresh, and
very cool. Yeah, I didn't know. I just was curious, being that big, being in, it's one of the biggest typical shot in the state of Wisconsin. And it's up there with the national. It can't be ignored, it's that big. So I didn't know. If it was me, I'd have a couple replicas made just to travel around and not have to worry about it, but
yeah, I definitely am considering that, because obviously I would rather not have to bring it to places if that is the case. It ends up being records and everything stays consistent.
Yeah, definitely. Well, cool, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to do this quick interview, and congratulations, man, on a world-class, just whitetail dream, man. That's incredible. Awesome story.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I hope you have some success the rest of your season. And I appreciate you taking the time, and it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, man, of course. If you end up at a Wisconsin show or something like that, come trade show season this spring, let's meet up, and I want to actually see this thing in person, man.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to show it to you. So
you want to shout out anybody or anything like that before we get going?
Yeah, I would. Again, the neighbors, Dakota, Corey, and my wife, and the family that farm that I obviously hunt on, and they all played a huge role in this deer. And you don't kill a deer like this without awesome surrounding people around you, and definitely couldn't did it without them. The same with my dad, who got me into the sport of hunting and fishing in the first place.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah. It sounds like you're lucky. You got good people surrounding you, good neighbors. So that's what adds up to big bucks like this, the communication and doing that. So congrats, man. Thanks for doing this. And thanks to everyone who watched and who's listening. If you're listening to this, you probably want to watch it so you can see how big this deer is. I'm sure they've seen it on the internet floating around, but I do have the head, this part of it right here as well. Oh, you do? Wow.
And so you can see it how the.
I didn't know you had that sitting there the whole time. That thing is insane.
And so this is the tie-in. Otherwise, you can see the symmetry.
Are you at work right now? Do you just have that thing at work with you?
No, I'm at home right now. I'm at home. It does travel with me quite a bit, though. I will say that. It doesn't leave my side very often.
I was gonna say, you got it with you. You're on your lunch break, eating food out of the center of the rack, just so nobody else can touch it.
Sleeping with it? No.
That's all. I would be, man. That's awesome. Well, cool, man. Well, congratulations again, and thank you so much for doing this. And hopefully, everyone listening or watching enjoyed this, and they go check out the photos of it. And I'm just going to close it out with good luck, everybody, at the remainder of the season. You know what to do. Go shoot a giant. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks.